Good morning and welcome to Junior Achievement She Leads STEM Summit. My name is Megan Burr and I am a senior at UC Santa Cruz studying biomolecular engineering and bioinformatics. I'm also a Junior Achievement alumni, so I could not be more thrilled to be here with you today. 4 years ago, when I was still in high school, I attended the first ever She Leads STEM Summit. So I can tell you firsthand how important it is for young women to hear from the experiences of current female leaders in these fields. Let's take a second to talk about a few female trailblazers from the 21st century. In 1952, Rosalind Franklin was an English chemist whose work was crucial in the discovery of the shape of DNA, a finding that would change science forever. Dorothy Vaughan, a brilliant mathematician and engineer, was the first female African-American supervisor at NASA in the late 1950s. Under her leadership, many other female engineers were able to thrive at that time, such as Katherine Johnson, who at 97 years old in 2015 was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama for her work on America's first human spaceflight. In 2015, Tu Youyou was awarded the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for her work studying traditional Chinese medicine, which led to the development of a treatment for malaria, which saved millions of lives. Even today, we have Gitanjali Rao, a 15-year-old scientist and inventor who was named Time Magazine's first ever Kid of the Year for her work creating a water contamination tool in response to the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, at 10 years old. She has also created apps that help diagnose opioid addiction and prevent cyberbullying. Time and time again, the world has directly benefited by the contributions of women in STEM. Yet we need to continue to raise awareness against all kinds of bias and continue to fight for equality. Did you know that in 2021, out of 13 Nobel Prize winners, Maria Ressa, a Filipino journalist and author, was the only woman to receive an award? So many women are paving the way and opening doors to positions that are traditionally held by men. These women are setting a new standard for women and girls that have role models to look up to and say, hey, I can do that and I can be that. That is why we are here today. We have panelists that have not only raised the bar, but are here to show you that you can too. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, I would like to thank Chevron, our presenting sponsor, for being here today. Today's panelists spend many different careers and backgrounds. These phenomenal women are here to empower you, inspire you, and elevate you, so that when you leave today, you will know that you have the ability to do anything you put your mind to. Even when you are not sure, there will be people here to encourage you along the way. Before we dive into our questions with our panelists, we have an incredible special guest here to tell you about how she became a top engineer at Chevron.
Good morning and welcome to the Junior Achievement She Leads STEM Summit, sponsored by Chevron. My name is Maxine Louie. I'm a sophomore at Carnegie Mellon University and a Junior Achievement student alumni. I'm so excited to be joining you today. And today we celebrate women from all walks of life. We celebrate our ingenuity, the growth we have made over the years of contributions to society. The journey is not over, it is just beginning, and we will continue to earn our place in history. Before I introduce our keynote, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Chevron, for being a part of today. It's going to be amazing. I'm very excited to be here speaking to our keynote speaker, Danielle Lincoln. Danielle is a general manager of renewables in Chevron's America's Fuels and Lubricants business. Welcome, Danielle. It's great to meet you, and thank you for being with us today. So please begin by telling us about yourself and your journey to become an engineer.
All right, thanks, Maxine, and thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here talking to you today and excited to be talking to the young women in Junior Achievement. So I'm a chemical engineer by background, and the way I got interested in engineering is actually a pretty funny story. My mom has a mathematics degree, and she has always worked in the oil and gas industry. And when I was a kid, I'm the oldest of three. When I was growing up, I would say like, oh, I wonder what I want to be when I grow up. And my mom would say, well, it's easy. You have three choices. You're either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer. And I said, okay. I wonder why my mom wants me to drive a train. Why does she want me to drive a locomotive? But okay, if my mom said it, then I guess that's one of my choices. So I always thought I was going to be one of those. And as I got older, I loved math. I loved science. I loved chemistry. I loved calculus. And so in high school, I thought, okay, I love chemistry. I love calculus, chemical engineering, right? I know I have to be an engineer. So chemical engineering. I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know what a chemical engineer did, but I assumed that it put the two things that I love together. So I went to the University of Texas at Austin and I majored in chemical engineering. And when I got there, I started taking the coursework and I realized, like, oh, okay, I do like this. Like, it is putting all the things that I love together. So that's my story, right? I loved math and science. My mom introduced me to engineering and I became a chemical engineer.
It's nice to hear. Um, yeah. So, what is the general manager of renewables in Chevron's America's Fuels and Lubricants? And what were the key milestones that got you into your current role?
Yeah, so this is very exciting time to be at Chevron and to be in the energy industry because we are all dealing with the energy transition. We're all trying to figure out how do we move forward. We know the energy that we make is needed, but it has to be lower carbon, right? So this is really one of the most exciting times to be in the industry. My role specifically as general manager of the renewables business is to build a business around renewable transportation fuels. So we sell gasoline, people use the gasoline at our gas stations. We sell diesel for heavy duty trucking. We sell jet fuel for airplanes, but we have to make those fuels lower carbon. So my team is doing that. We are on the front edge, and which is really exciting. We are pushing more lower carbon liquid fuels like renewable diesel. We are working on bringing renewable natural gas to market. So think about things like landfills and dairy farms that have methane that just naturally emit off of the waste. We capture that methane and turn it into a useful product like natural gas to be used in vehicles. And then we're also working on hydrogen for vehicles. So that's really what my team is doing, is pushing those forward. How I got to this role, I started at Chevron 11, no, not 11 years, 8 or 9 years ago. And I joined as an external hire. And so when I came into the organization, I was doing carbon and biofuel strategy, thinking strategically about what we were going to do in this space. I did several different roles, including a sales role, and then came into this role. So I feel pretty qualified to push this forward. And again, it's a super exciting time to be in the space.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like the environment is something that is really important to take care of. So I'm really glad that someone's out there and making sure that these renewable energy sources are being like maintained. So yeah, it's great to hear. So please tell us about a woman in your life that helped you realize your potential and power within you.
Yeah, I love this question. So I talked about my mom. She had a mathematics degree and she went to work in the oil and gas industry in the late 70s and early 80s, right? So back then, I didn't really, as a kid, I didn't think much of that. But now, as an adult working in the industry, I think back on, man, what was that like for her, a woman in this industry, a Black woman at that, in the late 70s, early 80s. That makes me have a lot more appreciation for, what she did. So just seeing her do that gave me the empowerment that I needed to know that I could do it. I could do anything, be in any space. Um, but in my actual professional life, I'll tell you, the first woman that I worked for, at the time I was working at Dow Chemical, she told me, at that time I thought, man, I'm good. I do my work. I'm good at what I do. I had been out of college, maybe 5 years, and I liked what I was doing, and I thought I could get things done, and that's what I was good at. And she said, Danielle, you are so much more than that. Like, you can get things done, but you also are a strategic thinker. You can build winning teams. You know how to bring people along on that journey. And you really have what it takes to be a leader at this company. That, her taking the time to tell me that really changed my trajectory, because not only did she give me opportunities within the company, but she changed the way I thought about my own opportunities, right? I hadn't thought about the idea that I could be a leader in the company. I hadn't thought about that I was a good strategic thinker, or that, I could develop strategies and implement them. So her taking the time to have that discussion with me, to push me, to give me the opportunities, really changed my trajectory. And it changed the way I thought about myself. So one thing that I would say to you guys, at some point, you all are going to be leaders, right? You're going to be leaders in different industries, different companies. You might own your own company. But if you see someone, a young woman, a young man, and you see potential in them, taking the time to like just stop and tell them, that could change their life. That literally could change the trajectory of their life. And that's what I think she did for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. Like, I feel like in any opportunity or job, if you're lucky to meet all these mentors, and I'm really glad that she was there to guide you and coach you, and now like you're a manager in your current position, so it definitely changed the trajectory of where you are. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Um, so what is something that you strive to integrate into your daily or weekly routine to make you feel grounded and not overwhelmed by life stresses?
Yeah, I like this question too, because especially now, we're all dealing with the pandemic and we've all been working from home and working differently. One of the things that I like to do, because I can get caught up, there's a lot of work to do, is really take the weekends off to spend time with my family, spend time with my kids, and completely disconnect. That can be hard, right? Sometimes, because we all have, pressing needs and, um, you know, things that we have to get done. But I really try to completely disconnect, not get on my laptop, not, get on my email or my work phone, and truly disengage from work and be completely engaged with my kids and with my husband. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I had another mentor tell me that, Danielle, there's things that you can do and you can get help. Don't be afraid of asking for help. Don't be afraid of saying, hey, I can't do it all. And there's some things that you are going to need to bring some people in. So I've also done that, right? Raise my hand when I need help, ask for help from family or others, um, to do things to allow me to do work, but also keep my family life, in balance.
Yeah, that was really wise. I think especially when you grow older and want to start a family, but also have a career, it takes a lot of like time management and juggling. So I think that's really good advice to be able to know like boundaries and be like, I need help, and also like disconnect. So yeah, that's really great advice. I think I'll also try to implement that a little bit
Yeah,
more in my life. Yeah.
awesome.
Um, okay, final question. So, what were your preconceptions about a career in engineering? And now that you've been working in that industry for several years, what has surprised you most compared to these preconceptions?
So when I was getting my degree in chemical engineering, I thought I'm going to have to know every single thing that I'm learning here. All of these formulas, how to do these experiments, because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing when I get to work. So I have to memorize them. I have to know them inside and out.
Mhm.
And that's what I thought engineering was going to be like. But when I got into the industry, I realized that really what we were learning in school was how to problem solve, how to think about problems, and how to work through them. And so when you get into industry, it's not necessarily about remembering all of the formulas and remembering all of the details of what you learn, but it's the process of how you think about the problems and how you think about um, applying those engineering concepts to your work. So I haven't done what I would call hardcore chemical engineering in a long time. And so now I'm actually more in a commercial side of the business. I'm more in a sales or commercial or customer facing side of the business. But what I learned when I was a chemical engineer about how to solve problems, how to think through problems helps me today. So I'm so glad that I have that as a baseline, even though I'm not doing hardcore engineering.
Mhm.
It helps me every day because I understand the technical, and then I can use that, apply that to what I'm doing on the commercial side. So that's my biggest preconceived notion. I thought I was going to have my chemical engineering 101 books out every day, using those to solve problems. I don't do that, but I still rely on what I learned and how I learned to think about problems in my everyday work.
That's comforting to know. Thank you, Danielle, for taking the time to speak with me today and share your story with our students. I had a wonderful experience getting to know more about you. Now I'm going to turn it back to Megan Burr.
Thank you, Maxine, for that wonderful interview with Danielle Nelson. We appreciate you both for taking the time to be here today. Now let me introduce the fantastic panel of female trailblazers here today to talk about their career paths, adversity that they've faced, and blazing their own trail. We have Cecilia Menzia, a principal at EY Consulting Services. We have Jody Westbrook, one of the lead scientists focusing on genetics and molecular biology at Invitae. We have Lavanya Dewan, a consultant at Kearney Services. We have Sophia Long, a reliability engineer with Marathon. Good morning, ladies, and thank you for taking the time to be here today. To start, in 30 seconds or less, could each of you tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you want to be involved in today's event? Let's start with Cecilia.
Hello, good morning again. Cecilia Mencia, like you mentioned, I am a partner principal at EY. I lead a group focused on transformation delivery. We help Fortune 50 clients really achieve their biggest ambitions and their biggest challenges. I wanted to be here today because I too started my career as one of you ladies sitting on a chair like this, sort of hearing from others and learning what their path has been and how mine could follow some of those pieces.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jody Westbrook. I'm a scientist working in biotechnology, specifically Invitae, which is a biotechnology firm here in the Bay Area. And I wanted to be part of this event because being a scientist has brought me so much fulfillment and opportunity. And I also think that as humans, we have a lot of really big problems to solve and we need all the help we can get. So as you guys are thinking about what careers you want to pursue, I just really want to help encourage you to think about STEM careers.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Lavanya Devan, and it's an honor to be here today with all of you. In terms of my background, I'm a consultant at Kearney, and I've been here since last year. And I'm here today because actually it's a little bit of a personal story and also a little bit professional, I would say. Professionally, Kearney's been involved with JA. We've had a board seat for many years, and I've seen the kind of work you do, and I was very inspired to be a part of it. More personally, it's a little bit about where I come from. So I'm the daughter of a woman who is an entrepreneur, struggled, saw all the odds, but she has a STEM degree, and I know how that helped her. And I want to be able to share that with you and also be inspired by you here today.
That is so awesome, thank you.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Sophia Long. I'm a reliability engineer at Marathon Petroleum. And the reason I wanted to be here today was because I have been blessed to have a lot of people to look up to in my life and people to give me advice and people who just reached out. And so I wanted to be one of the people who takes a step out and says, hey, you guys can do whatever you want to do. And if you need somebody to help give you a little bit of direction or see where one of the roads can lead, I'm happy to tell you my story.
That is a perfect segue into our next question. Thank you so much. But this week's event incorporates mentoring. So I would like to ask you, in what ways have you been a mentor to someone in your personal or professional life? If you would like to start.
Okay, yeah, I'll start. So growing up, I had a lot of advocates for me, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily a mentor, but they did take the part of being a mentor, helping me figure out where I wanted to go and being my advocates. And when I went to college, I got my first real established mentor through the National Society of Black Engineers. She was a fifth-year senior, and I was a freshman. And we had a really fantastic working relationship. I actually ended up filling her shoes and becoming leadership at our local chapter. And that just helped me a ton with my professional career. Even everything from being one of the very few brown women in engineering to navigating like college life, relationships, and it was super impactful for me to have that mentor there. And then I would say myself as a mentor, is more on the personal side. I started working with a program called Guiding Light, which is for kids who come from more vulnerable backgrounds. And I definitely saw myself in some of those kids. We had some similarities growing up. And that was one of the most impactful things that I've ever done, is to help other people, especially people that are walking in the same path that I walked in, and help them overcome some of the obstacles in their life, as well as setting the bar high because they could reach it.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And being able to use your experiences to help others that could be in similar situations, I think, is just a wonderful way to be a great mentor and to really just help these kids that are looking for someone like that. So thank you. That's awesome. And then I know you wanted to answer.
Sure. Very similar story to yours. I think there's two parts to it. One, that I feel very fortunate to be where I am, and I know that it's a massive factor of that is the women around me and the people around me who invested in me, mentored me, and showed me the right way, right? Or not exactly the right way, maybe more showed me how to do things. And I feel like that's something that's significant. Similarly, when I think about mentoring someone, I have a recent example that I think might be interesting to the audience we have here today. While I was in business school, we started a fundraiser to raise money for COVID, and as part of that, we had some advice for any master's applicants who wanted to apply to business school or master's programs in the US, whether in India or outside. And as part of that, I had this high school kid reach out to me from India, and she was thinking almost 10 years ahead and asking me how to get into an MBA program and what she needs to do then. And I was so inspired to hear that. And I think it's just through these experiences of mentorship that I feel very inspired. And yeah, that's the story I wanted to share.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I think as someone who's sought a mentor in my life before, it's sometimes hard to know where to start. And so it's so nice to know that, you know, if you just reach out, there's people here that are so willing to help and share their experiences and want the best for you. So I think that that's amazing to hear that from you, and just know that it's just as simple as sending an email or going to an event and hopefully having these opportunities and being able to reach out to these amazing women. So they're here to help.
The thing that I'd add, I mean, because I definitely appreciate the value and the power of mentorship, but I didn't even know what a mentor was growing up, or why I needed one, or how to find that, or I clearly didn't know how to find it because I didn't know what it was. And so I think that maybe there's a lot of pressure sometimes that we put on ourselves, thinking, oh, we have to have a mentor, we have to have somebody that's got our back. It could start with a coach. It could start with a friendly word. It could start with an advice. And I think the more impactful mentorship relationships have been the ones that have grown organically, where it starts with that connection. Definitely. So I think you guys that are thinking about finding a mentor, and then you'll hear about finding a sponsor, which is kind of another element of kind of getting support, really start with that connection, and start with a connection with somebody or many somebodies where they have something that you might feel like you want to learn from, or you might want to dig a little bit deeper in.
What is one thing that you would say to high school students participating today that they can do now to prepare themselves for a future in STEM, or if they're interested in pursuing STEM and learning more about it?
One thought I had about this was the importance of communication in STEM careers. I think sometimes that flies a little bit under the radar. It's not always explicitly taught as part of academic tracks in science and engineering, but being a strong communicator is so important. Being able to explain complex ideas in a simple manner and clearly. So really anything you can do to work on your written or presentation, communication skills is really going to serve you well down the line.
I definitely have to agree with that. I'm in my senior capstone engineering project at UC Santa Cruz, and as a part of it, it's a student-led project, and so we're constantly explaining our project to more and more people that we're trying to bring into the project. And so being a good communicator, I think, is a skill that may be undervalued in engineering or STEM in general, but it's definitely a super great skill to have. And as we move on to our next question, I would just like to ask, starting off with, a lot of critical issues like sustainability and racial equality are finally getting the awareness that they deserve and the momentum, and what role do you think corporations should play in contributing to solutions to make our world healthier and more equitable?
I think corporations, stepping back, a corporation is not like a thing, like an entity, a building. Like corporations are people. And at the end of the day, who is going to save us from ourselves is ourselves. So all of us have a collective responsibility to take accountability for the impact that we've had on some of the things that have gone wrong in the world. Mm-hmm. And so if we look at the corporation as people coming together, is definitely supporting the causes, supporting things like the environment, and then sometimes making the tough calls and the tough decisions and taking a stand, right? When we saw sort of in the middle of 2020, the social unrest that came out of the George Floyd murder, for the first time, we saw a lot of corporations really coming and taking a stand on what was wrong and what was wrong. And that was really hopeful to see. So just like it happened then, I think corporations have their responsibility to set a standard of how we want the people in the world to set a standard of how we should all behave together.
Definitely, and especially when corporations can start off as startups and then build. You know, they have the potential to have so many employees and such a big outreach in their programs that they have, and just like community outreach and stuff like that. And so I think it's definitely super important to, stand up for causes you believe in and just look around in the world today and see what's going on and what you can help with. So.
Yeah, I wanted to add that, speaking to an audience of high school students, I think one of the things I admire about people in high school today is how engaged and how passionate you are about these issues. Just comparing to myself like 20 years ago, I feel like you're a much more savvy, forward-thinking generation. That's just my opinion. And I think that STEM careers really give you a lot of opportunity to work on important issues and at mission-driven companies that really do want to be a force for good in the world. The company that I work at, one of our goals is to reduce healthcare disparities by making genetics more available and more accessible to people. And being able to work at a company with a mission that's really just deeply personally resonant to me, like it makes my work and my experience at work just so much more fulfilling. And yeah, I think there's lots of opportunity for that kind of work in science and engineering careers.
Absolutely. And in such a field where you can really mold like your purpose and you can use all of your experience to funnel it into a purpose that you really are passionate about. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to create your own path and, put your mind to something and you can do anything, is just very, I don't want to say easy, but it takes work and the possibilities are endless. So.
Absolutely. I think just tagging on a little bit to your point earlier, the role of corporations definitely has evolved, right? We're no longer siloed. And I think they have begun to set pretty ambitious targets. For example, when you're thinking about sustainability in the planet, they're saying, okay, hey, we know climate change is happening, we want to get involved. Or if it's racial and social equity goals, similar goals, everybody's trying to get involved. But I think a critical part of that, where you and I and all of us can play a role, is how do you translate that purpose into action, right? What can you do? How can you think about improving that? And I think, for example, where I work at Kearney, we talk about it in terms of the business. We talk about it in terms of the people, planet, and communities, right? So when you sort of think through it in these structures, it helps you identify what's the best way you can contribute. So imagine you're working in a consulting firm or a banking firm, or you're a scientist. Think about how you can touch all those aspects through the work that you do, for example. And I think we can definitely all be doing more.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what all you ladies said. One of the things that I think about when I think what responsibility do businesses have on not only their employees, but their community. And I think that it's very interesting to see, like, as you were mentioning, the wave of support that companies gave around 2020, or at least the acknowledgement. I think companies, yes, they're made up of people, and those people come from all different backgrounds. And a company, at the end of the day, is a company. They have finances in mind. And one of the things they want to do is they still want to be competitive. They want all those things, and they need a workforce that is motivated to make those things happen. So if you want to be part of the workforce, your company will listen to you. And so I think companies doing things like having a float in the Pride parades, or raising a flag during like a History Month or Women's Week, having people wear red, Women's Month, having people wear red. That's a great jumping off point, and it shows you that your company is willing to listen. But then I think it's the responsibility of the people working to hold the company accountable and make them take those next steps. To say, hey, you know what, this is great. This is great, but actually we would like to see X, Y, and Z. And one of the things that motivates me about high school students, similar to what you guys said, is how knowledgeable you are. Like, you guys do your research. It's really great. I love to see it. And then saying, hey, you know what? I actually noticed that we only have X amount of women here. What are you doing to not just recruit women, but what are you doing to retain women? Because I noticed that the retention rate dropped off. And I think companies have the responsibility to their people to have those conversations, and when they hear people bring up those concerns, that they respond to it, and they don't just kind of pass it off. They're not just doing the lip service of, hey, we raised the flag for you, hey, we put out a statement on LinkedIn for you. It's, no, what are you actually going to do to support us? And that's, I think, how the company and the people, the company and the workers can best drive the future of sustainability and equity.
I totally agree. And I think that's a great point to piggyback off of what you said about, it's great to talk about all of these things, but what's most important is to make sure that you take action. And so whether it's the workforce standing up for what you believe in, just make sure to push for something to happen, not just talk about it, even though that has its merits too, absolutely.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
But I loved what you said when you brought up your example about women, because that is a great segue into our next question. Knowing that there is a disparity of women pursuing engineering careers and specifically leadership roles in engineering, what or who motivated you to move forward? And I would like to extend that to STEM. I think personally, as an engineering major at UC Santa Cruz, I have seen the disparity in some of my classes versus other classes that I've taken. But I think that it's important to hear from all parts of STEM, or STEAM, as you like to say, which is great.
I can jump in. I think for me, what motivated me to date and will continue to is this feeling that I have to pay it forward.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is I've been extremely fortunate. I was extremely fortunate to have parents that, for their kids, migrated to the United States to look for a better life and started from scratch. I was fortunate to have a high school teacher that sort of saw, hey, she's got some talent, let's pivot her the right way. Mm-hmm. I was actually fortunate that we had no money, and I was able to get a full-ride scholarship to university. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate to have the brain that sometimes looks at the things that are challenges as opportunities. And so as I've pushed my career, I've always often realized, looked up ahead, some of the women ahead of me, and not necessarily saw myself in them. Nothing wrong to any of them, but, not a lot of brown girl immigrants that really made it unapologetically in a male-dominated world. And so I've always felt that if I don't see it in front of me, then I can be that for the next girl. Yes. And kind of waking up every day and remembering that it's not about who's watching me, but it's about who's coming behind me. That is what really matters and keeps me going.
Awesome, yeah. And I think having mentors and having groups of people, that have had similar experiences like you is super important when you're trying to push forward in a path that might not be the easiest. So I think that's awesome. Thank you.
One thing I would add, and this piece of advice isn't necessarily specific to women in STEM, but certainly applies, is just the importance of being resilient throughout your education and your career. You're definitely going to run into times when people tell you that, I mean, in not so many words, that you're not good enough, or that, your ideas suck, or that you're stupid, and you just have to decide early on that you're not going to listen, and you're just going to keep going. And developing like that sense of resiliency and grit, I think, is really, really key to succeeding.
That actually reminds me of a story. I always knew I wanted to be a consultant, and so, but the Big Four didn't didn't recruit at my school. So I went to a recruiter when I graduated college and said, "This is the job that I want. I want to be a consultant." And she said to me, "Oh, honey, those are the dream jobs. If you don't have it right now, you're never gonna have it. So here is another like office manager job that you might want to consider." And I remember just getting up and walking out, because she didn't know me. She didn't know how resilient I was and what I was going to be capable of. So I think that what you mentioned, it's a really true advice. People are going to doubt you, right? I think we all have those examples. But at the end of the day, it's the stories, the truths that you tell to yourself about yourself that are going to carry you forward.
Definitely. Absolutely. That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it's covered wonderfully. I don't know what I can add. But I think I just want to say that, just to sum it up a little bit, I think it's role models for me that made a big difference. I was fortunate, very lucky to have that. And I think a part of it was also seeking out role models, right? When I was looking at things, when I was reading the news and seeing women just crushing it, just how are they doing it? What did they do? How did they get there? And those are the kind of questions I was asking myself. And I think if I went back in time, I would probably not do that differently. I think there's a lot of inspiration around us. And whether it's a career in STEM specifically or just generally in your career, as you think about it, I think explore, see what's out there.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
Definitely. I agree. And just if you're interested in it, just give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? See someone and ask them some questions. To our last question. It's kind of a big question, but in 30 seconds or less, maybe just try to give it a shot. Where do you think the future of STEM is going? Big question.
I think it's going wherever you guys take it. I think that 20 years ago, nobody could predict what was happening now. I think 10 years ago, nobody could predict what was happening now. I think 5 years ago, people couldn't predict what was happening now. And so the future of STEM is really what people want it to be. If there's something that you want to see in the future of STEM, if you have a certain skill set and you're like, you know what, I'd like to have this really awesome job, I'd like to do this, make this impact, I'd like to see STEM, science, the areas of science, technology, engineering, anything, wherever you want to see that, whatever changes you want to see, you can make it happen.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thank you.
I think that the role of science and innovation is tremendous for really saving the world. If you think about it, there's already a war for talent. So all of you guys kind of starting your education and your careers, you're going to be that talent that everybody's going to be fighting for. And sadly, it won't be enough because the world will continue to grow. And so innovating and bringing technology that really kind of makes up for the lack of human talent, because we just won't have enough people to do it, is going to be tremendously important. So we're really counting on you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll just add to that, a lot of what I did in the laboratory when I first started working as a scientist is now automated. And I also think with AI, analyzing data is getting less burdensome. So I think that our role is really going to shift to being more creative and to thinking about human-centric design and the more, human aspects of everything we're trying to accomplish. So, yeah, I think I agree also that we have no idea what's going to happen really in 10 years.
I think the future for STEM is bright. It's been getting brighter. And it's not even defined like STEM anymore, right? It can be as wide as you think. For example, like she mentioned just now, STEAM. So there's going to be opportunity coming out of many different things, whether it's being more human-centered design in a lab, whether it is outside, whether it's, for example, if you go into a store today, you'll see people using technology versus what used to be them writing down notes earlier, right? So it's only going to become more. It's only going to become everywhere. And I think it's the right time to be where we are.
I completely agree. Thank you so much. I think that there are endless opportunities and endless problems that need solutions. And so, you know, you guys are brilliant. You can put your minds to it and figure out a way to do that. You can do anything you set your mind to. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I had an awesome time listening and hearing your experiences and your stories, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come out. Thank you. So students, don't forget to take the survey. By completing the survey, you'll be entered in a drawing to win an Amazon gift card. By participating in this event, you are all now JA alums. We would love for you to stay in touch by following us on social media, and we would love to have you all stay involved with Junior Achievement. Thank you so much.